is our great pleasure to welcome you all to the second International Conference on the CYPRUS issue, past, present, and the vision for the future. Tonight, I would like to invite you all for 1 minute silence and national anthem. So thank you all participants and the contributors of the conference. Now I would like to invite the President of the conference, Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçekmiş, for the opening speech.
His Excellency, Ambassador Çağatay Yetjes, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, Director General for Bilateral, Political and Maritime Aviation Border Affairs. His Excellency Ali Murat Başçeli, Ambassador of Turkey to Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Former Foreign Minister of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Hasim Ertuğrul. Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Niyaris University, Associate Professor İrfan Suat Gülser. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's our great pleasure to welcome you all to the second international conference on the Cyprus issue, past, present, and vision for the future. Our first conference was held in 2001 and was completed with great success. At this conference, over 50 distinguished and worldwide known academicians, along with diplomats, politicians, and admirals attend to the conference and present their papers. The main aim and the significance of the second conference is to revisit the subject in a view of important local and regional developments, alternative solutions for the future of Cyprus issue, the impact of the discovery of the hydrocarbons in the Eastern Mediterranean region since 2001, and analyze how these have impacted the political settlement process in Cyprus. The UN facilitated negotiations to realize a new bicommunal and bizonal federal partnership based on the political equality of the Turkish Cypriot and Greek Cypriot communities, as co-founders have repeatedly failed since 1968. Most recently, the political talks have been completely collapsed since the failure of the Crans-Montana summit in 2017. After 50 years of failed negotiations, we believe the time has come to start thinking alternative options for the future of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. On the other hand, the discovery of the hydrocarbons in the Eastern Mediterranean has added a further international dimension to the Cyprus issue, as well as the needs of stability and cooperation in Eastern Mediterranean region. As political equals, the natural resources of the island are co-owned by both of its peoples. The optimal exploitation of hydrocarbon resources in a stable environment is best possible through respect for the rights of relevant stakeholders. Therefore, it is a very timely conference to discuss the most important contemporary problems concerning the Eastern Mediterranean and the future of Cyprus. As I have mentioned above, the conference hosts over 50 distinguished and worldwide known academicians, along with diplomats, politicians, and admirals. There are 11 sessions in the conference. All the topics are chosen and categorized with almost academic considerations. The sessions are the current dynamics in the Eastern Mediterranean and future of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, energy security and disputes in Eastern Mediterranean, Cyprus in historical perspective, Cyprus cohesion and solution alternatives, future of the Cyprus problem, Cyprus, European Union and Middle East, Cyprus and Turkey, the strategic significance of Eastern Mediterranean and Cyprus for Turkey, Cyprus in regional context, future of Cyprus, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, soft power. The selected papers of the conference will be published in the book by the world-leading publishing house Springer. The book will be delivered more than 8,000 libraries all around the world and will make great contribution to the recognition of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus and our rightful arguments. Lastly, let me take this opportunity to thank to all participants and contributors of the conference. Also, I would like to thank to the member of the organizing committee, and in particular, Associate Prof. Dr. Hüseyin Işıksal and Assistant Prof. Dr. Yusuf Kasım. I hope you enjoy the conference and have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you for Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçekuş, and now I would like to invite the Honorary President of the Conference Association, Professor Dr. İrfan Suat Günsel, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Nearest University, for speech.
His Excellency Ambassador Çağatay Erciyes, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, Director General for Bilateral Political and Maritime Aviation Border Affairs. His Excellency Murat Bahçeli, Ambassador of Turkey to Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you all to our International Conference on Cyprus issue, the past, present, and the vision for the future. I would like to thank to the organizing committee, especially to the President of the conference, Professor Dr. Hüseyin Gökçekuş, and the Republic of Turkey Embassy in Nicosia, and His Excellency Ambassador Ali Murat Bahçeli, as well as the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Republic of Turkey Ministry of Foreign Affairs for initiating such a timely meeting. I would also like to thank to our keynote speaker, His Excellency Ambassador Çağatay Erciyes, Director General for Bilateral, Political and Maritime Aviation Border Affairs, or Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkey. I sincerely hope that this important conference will provide us with a valuable venue to exchange views and expertise, and that it will create new ideas and views on the Cyprus issue. The nearest university was established with the vision of our founding rector, Dr. Suat Günsel, and the driving thought behind this vision was, why do Turkish Cypriots have to go to abroad to meet their essential needs? He set up this university to enable the Turkish Cypriots, the islanders, live as if they were living in a continent, not only meeting their needs, but also in realizing their potential and fulfilling their ambitions. In this regard, the nearest university is not only driven by and for its students, but equally for the well-being of all those living in the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. In other words, the nearest university is an institution not only for the students of its own, but also for the people of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. The university is making the people ready for the changes and challenges of global economy, politics, culture, education, and health ahead. It has been 28 years since, and it is also reflected in our new revised motto, to leave a mark on continents as an islander and as a member of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, to leave a mark with new scientific discoveries, to leave a mark with innovation, to leave a mark with new inventions that will benefit both the humankind and our environment, to leave a mark with leading medical treatments, a mark in each and every aspect of scientific, economic, and social development, relevant to not only the Turkish Cypriot society, but others in the world with an ever-growing capacity and dedication. This principle has meant that nearest university has always remained above politics. This is why we did not use governmental funds in our course of founding the nearest university. We believed in the idea of a free university which will inspire a guide and political, economic, and social institutions of our country and beyond. Indeed, education has no boundaries. You can develop your intellectual skills regardless of your age, gender, physical abilities, socioeconomic status, political stance, beliefs, or religious orientation. Our university is a symbol of education with no frontiers, with its over 10,000 international students from over 135 countries, despite the restrictions that have been imposed on us for too many years. In this respect, we argue that any solution, resolution, or dissolution should also consider the future status of these international students and the future of higher education on the island, with a particular emphasis on the universities in the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. As negotiations seem to enter into a new stage, we find it very timely to discuss various possible scenarios about the future of Cyprus. This conference is certainly one of the best avenues for us to make sense of this very complex framework and to come up with a systematic analysis. I believe that the expertise and extensive knowledge of the distinguished participants in this meeting have much to offer for us in navigating through a complex set of issues in this new stage of negotiations, with implications for the wider region and beyond. Among others, this conference will explore the prospect for the transformation of various conflicts in the region, the risks and opportunities involved in such context, and the overall role of energy geopolitics in the Mediterranean region, with particular reference to Cyprus and other relevant cases. Since the Arab uprising, conflict has ridden the entire regions of the Mediterranean and North Africa on a scale that has not been seen since the end of colonialism. While the old conflicts, such as the Israeli-Palestinian and the Western Sahara ones, have not been resolved, new and potentially more dangerous conflicts and proxy wars have been emerged throughout the region. The cases of Libya, Syria, and Yemen are important examples, and so in the tensions in Egypt. In this context, major developments have also occurred in the areas such as migration, refugees, and human trafficking, while major actors such as Russia, the United States, and Turkey has also been active in shaping the future of the region. Against this background, a new factor has been added to the equation. Due to the recent natural gas finds, the Eastern Mediterranean will soon become the new energy frontier. Developments in this field could have far-reaching geopolitical implications for the Mediterranean and beyond. The discovery of the Eastern Mediterranean gas resources comes at a time when world demand for energy is growing rapidly, and many are questioning the reliability of supplies from the Persian Gulf and Russia. In response, Western governments are encouraging the diversification of supply to ensure energy security. As a result, energy has already had an impact on traditional patterns of cooperation in the region. Cyprus, of course, takes a relatively important place in geopolitical debates surrounding the Eastern Mediterranean, based on the recent discoveries as well as the ongoing Cyprus problem. The fact of the matter here is that recent gas discoveries in the Eastern Mediterranean can worsen the existing tensions in the area and potentially create new conflicts if not managed properly. In other words, it is only through cooperation that the gas reserves can be explored peacefully and fruitfully. And Cyprus is a good example of this. Cyprus is presented with a historic opportunity to play a central role in the Eastern Mediterranean, as well as on the wider European energy stage if the process is managed properly and is based on cooperation. Cooperation can also restore the missing ingredients in this and other similar contexts, and that is trust. Regarding Cyprus, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, together with Turkey, have always believed that only a sincere and constructive approach, which also considers the vital interests of the both sides, could produce a just, lasting, and viable settlement. At the same time, it is not enough that only one of the parties adopts such an approach, ignoring the legitimate equal rights of the other party. To put it bluntly, whoever wants a solution in Cyprus has to accept that there is an equal entity in Cyprus, even if it is not recognized, and that Turkish Cypriot people will also be equal partners under any formation. The international community has so far been reluctant to acknowledge this reality, repeatedly echoing these views that are expressed by the Greek Cypriot side. It is also for the reason that the previous rounds of negotiations have failed, and future negotiations, in the absence of a balanced approach, are also doomed to fail. Restoring a balanced, sincere, and constructive approach on the negotiating table, but also encouraging cooperation to restore trust, are therefore paramount. In any case, I know that the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, together with Turkey, will continue to defend the rights of the Turkish Cypriot people in all international platforms, and will not let their rights to be seized by anyone under any false pretense. Once again, I am confident that this meeting will guide the policy-making process on Cyprus issue as well as other issues. We would also like to host you all in similar groundbreaking academic and policy-making oriented activities in the future as well. I wish you all a successful conference and extend my sincere gratitude and warm regards to all the distinguished participants to the conference.
Thank you for receiving
situation, Professor Dr. İrfan Suat Günsel for speech. And now I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Çağatay Erciyes, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, Director General for Bilateral, Political and Maritime Aviation Border Affairs for speech.
Ambassador Başçeri, Minister Ertuğruloğlu, many friends whom I worked previously. I'm very happy to see their faces here today. Well, I was given to make an opening speech, but I'm going to give in my speech, if you can bear with me, it's going to be a little bit long speech. I'm going to give you the overview of where Turkey stands in terms of the Cyprus issue, and I'd like to give you an overview of the recent developments. I would like to begin with commending the president of the conference, Professor Hüseyin Gökçekuş, and also Professor İrfan Günsel, chairman of the Board of Trustees of Near East University, and all the members of the organizing committee for successfully mounting this important event, and express my sincere thanks for them for giving me the opportunity to address such a distinguished audience at the Near East University. I'd like to say a few words about the universities in Cyprus. It's quite remarkable that today 19 universities in the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus and nearly 1,500 academic programs in a wide range of fields from associate degrees to PhDs level. This is very important for the island, for the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, and I believe this is the soft power of the Turkish Cypriots, which we are very proud of. With over 5,000 academicians and 100,000 students, these universities present a valuable platform to address political issues that politicians and bureaucrats have to deal with on a daily basis. The bond between academy and bureaucracy needs to be fostered so that the decision makers could benefit from informed opinions of the academicians. I think today's conference is an example of such cooperation, and we also appreciate the similar efforts done by other universities on the island. As mentioned by Professor Gökçekuş, the first of this conference was held 18 years ago. Since then, many significant developments concerning the Cyprus issue have taken place. Unfortunately, none of them ended with a comprehensive settlement on the island. In fact, every settlement process has failed since 1968. Regrettably, the last UN comprehensive settlement process conducted between 2008 and 2017 was no exception to that. After 9 years of negotiations, the final session of the Conference on Cyprus, which was convened in Crans-Montana in 2017, ended without an agreement. Despite both Turkey and the Turkish Cypriots displayed a very constructive attitude and spared no effort to attain a just and sustainable settlement, the Greek Cypriot side persistently displayed intransigence. This outcome was inevitable given the fact that two sides on the island have different expectations from a settlement. They were not actually negotiating the same thing. The Greek Cypriots wanted to evolve their state through a new constitution and to accommodate the Turkish Cypriots as a patch along the way. The Turkish Cypriots, on the other hand, wanted to establish a new partnership based on the political equality of the two sides. This most recent failure to reach a settlement clearly showed once again that the Greek Cypriots are not willing to share power with the Turkish Cypriots. This mentality was also the reason why the 1960 Republic collapsed in only 3 years after its establishment, and the Annan Plan was overwhelmingly rejected by the Greek Cypriots in 2004. After all these decades, the Greek Cypriots still refuse to acknowledge this Turkish Cypriots' political equality. I think this is the core of the whole Cyprus issue. The latest statements of the Greek Cypriot leader show that he is still far away from shifting this mentality. He continues to see himself as the head of unitary state who can grant rights to a minority. This is not acceptable to Turkey. This is not acceptable to any Turkish Cypriot. Mr. Anastasiades put forward his ideas recently around what he called a loose federation, and then he rephrased it as a decentralization. However, he still fails to put flesh on his ideas. For instance, during his latest meeting with President Akıncı, he could not elaborate on which federal rights would be transferred to the constituent states. He even seems to step back from the past agreements, such as, which is very important, the rotating presidency and Turkish Cypriots one positive vote. As you know, these are the key elements to secure the political equality and effective participation of the Turkish Cypriots in a new partnership. Without a change in this mindset, negotiations will always fail to produce a win-win outcome. That's why immediately after the closing of the conference on Cyprus in Crans-Montana, Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu emphasized that it no longer seemed possible to reach a settlement based on the established parameters. President Erdogan also stressed this point. What Turkey is saying, that we have been negotiating for a federal solution since more than half a century, we could not reach any result. In this case, we have to consider reviewing our targets. Under the current circumstances, we, Turkey, neither exclude the federal model nor insist on a particular model. UN Secretary General Guterres also has acknowledged in his recent reports that new ideas are needed for the settlement of the Cyprus issue. In this respect, we are ready, Turkey is ready to take up any new idea as long as the political equality of the Turkish Cypriots is secured and the security needs of the Turkish Cypriots are met. At this stage, we believe that for a sound result, we need a healthy dialogue. Everybody should talk to each other. With this understanding, we continue our informal talks with the relevant parties. We have also shared our vision for the future of the settlement process with Ms. Jane Lute, the UN official tasked by the UN Secretary General. Without a solid common ground, we cannot move forward. Therefore, before starting a new process, we need to agree on what principles that process will be built on. In other words, we need to agree on what exactly and how we will negotiate. We need to see the common ground between the parties, common vision, before we proceed on to a new negotiation phase. But this common ground is not there yet. We do not want to start negotiations only for the sake of negotiating. And we know that the UN Secretary General shares the same approach. None of us or no one can tolerate another failure. I would also like to draw your attention to a misperception on the security and guarantees. we see that the Greek Cypriot side is trying to degrade the whole issue or boil down the whole issue to this chapter by claiming that without Turkey's guarantee, the whole Cyprus issue could easily be solved. This is purely the distortion of the truth. In fact, many other elements of the settlement had been on the table before the conference in Crans-Montana. This is only one chapter of many chapters in the Cyprus negotiation process. In any case, we see that Turkey's guarantee is vital on the island more than ever. No security, no guarantee will always be a non-starter for us. In any negotiation process, Turkey will always demand to be a guarantor until we are convinced that the Greek Cypriots will accept the Turkish Cypriots as an equal party and co-owner of the island. Distinguished participants, I would also like to dwell on the additional destabilizing factor in the Eastern Mediterranean, which is the Greek Cypriots' unilateral hydrocarbon-related activities. Hydrocarbons issue provides yet another example of the Greek Cypriots' short-sighted approach, which they have also been displaying in the Cyprus settlement negotiations for the past 50 years. We regret to see that the Eastern Mediterranean basin, which is already ridden with complex and intertwined issues, has now become a region of further instability due to the Greek Cypriots' irresponsible activities. In fact, the offshore hydrocarbon resources could have easily been used as a tool of stability in the region. In this respect, Turkey warned the Greek Cypriots from the very beginning that the two sides should decide on the fate of the island's natural resources together. The Turkish Cypriots had made constructive proposals to this end. I remember I was in New York when these proposals was made in 2011 and 2012. However, the Greek Cypriot side preferred to pursue their unilateral activities, and they still refused to acknowledge the Turkish Cypriots as the island's co-owners, just as they do not want to share the power. They want to keep the wealth to themselves. In this case, in terms of exploration and exploitation of the offshore natural resources of the island, the first choice of the Turkish Cypriots was cooperation. The Greek Cypriot side did not even need to wait for a comprehensive settlement for this. However, this did not happen. Therefore, the Turkish Cypriots are left with the only other alternative, which is to go their own way. The Greek Cypriots are trying to explain that once they start to earn revenues from the hydrocarbon resources, they will reserve the share of the Turkish Cypriots in a hydrocarbon fund until a settlement. I'm sure you heard these news in the Greek Cypriot press. They are going to establish a trust fund to reserve the revenues to give a share to the Turkish Cypriots. But for us and for the Turkish Cypriots, this is a simple window dressing. As I mentioned, they have passed the legislation on such a fund without even consulting the Turkish Cypriots. They are still acting as if the island and its resources belong to them alone. They are demonstrating yet again their unwillingness to accept the Turkish Cypriots as equal partners. What was needed, and actually what is needed now, is a mechanism that will allow the Turkish Cypriots to participate equally in decision making from the initial stage with regard to the hydrocarbon resources. So in other words, we want the Turkish Cypriots to be part of the decision-making process of the exploration and exploitation of hydrocarbon resources, even if there is no settlement, since the Turkish Cypriots are the co-owners of this island. This is the right of the Turkish Cypriots. I think this is the heart of the issue as far as the hydrocarbon resources are concerned. Another aspect of this problem is the maritime jurisdiction claims of the Greek Cypriots also violate Turkey's legitimate rights in its continental shelf in the region. An important segment of the so-called licensed areas of the Greek Cypriots fall within the outer limits of Turkey's continental shelf, which has been registered to the United Nations. In any case, Turkey, for its part, will continue to protect the rights of the Turkish Cypriots as well as its own rights and interests in the Eastern Mediterranean. In this respect, alongside our exploration and drilling activities on Turkey's continental shelf in the Eastern Mediterranean, we have started our hydrocarbon survey activities in the areas licensed to Turkish Petroleum by the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. As President Erdogan stated, any initiative in the Eastern Mediterranean which does not take Turkey into account is doomed to fail. On the other hand, the increasing tension in the Eastern Mediterranean also demonstrates the necessity for a political settlement in Cyprus. If the Greek Cypriots were willing to cooperate with the Turkish Cypriots on the issue of natural resources, this would not only constitute a confidence-building measure, but also bring notable economic gains to all parties involved. It would create a win-win solution. As regards a future settlement in Cyprus, as I mentioned, we continue to believe that it will definitely contribute to the security, stability, and prosperity of the entire Eastern Mediterranean region, and we maintain that only a negotiated settlement based on dialogue and diplomacy can be sustainable. Turkey will continue its endeavors to this end. Distinguished guests, I would like to take this opportunity to confirm Turkey's commitment to act in full solidarity with the Turkish Cypriot people. Turkey will always spend every effort to protect the legitimate rights and interests of the Turkish Cypriots on the island. In closing my remarks, I would like to reiterate my appreciation to the Near East University and the organizing committee who have worked hard to ensure the accomplishment of this conference. And I wish the conference a great success. And I also wish all guests and participants a most rewarding and enjoyable time in the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Thank you.
Thank you for this speech. And I would like to invite the Association Professor Dr. İrfan Suat Ünsal, because he will be the presented plaques for Çağatay Erciyes due to their contributions and supports for the conference.